beautifully explained the things. I will take from deferred and immediate execution operators. So as deferred operators, we have select, where, tag, and skip. This kind of operators we have. And immediate operators, we have count, average, min, max, and toList, etc. So what is actually deferred and immediate executions that I will explain now. So deferred execution is, we can say that when we give the query, when we give the select statement, there it is just getting the information that what it need to select, but actually it is not selecting from the database. And when we are actually going through the collection by using for each loop or by anything else, then actually it is executing and it is going to the database and getting the results. So with deferred execution, the benefit we get is we are getting the latest data from the database. Like if the database is changing randomly, we are changing our values like in banking operation or other things. So we can get the latest data set with the help of deferred execution. But if we use the operators as explained by Vinod, like toList, count, min, max, average, then there itself, like when we write the select statement, there itself we execute the query and we get the result set. So that is like for immediate execution, we use the operators, toList, min, max, average, these things. I'll give the demo of these things also. And now I will present my LINQ to XML. So why LINQ to XML? So XML is very easy to load in our memory and easier to querying the XML document, and it is very easy to update or doing the CRUD operations over the XML document. So these operations are provided by Microsoft, and these all operations we have in system.xml.link namespace. So before explaining you the LINQ to XML, we should just go for basic introduction with XML structure. So what we have there? So we have some basic structure and we have the mapper classes which map with the XML document, like X declaration, where we declare the XML document, what we have as version, encoding, and standalone if the document is standalone or not. Then we can give the comment with by using XComment class. Then X element is how we declare the elements inside the XML document, and X attribute is for any element. If you want to give any attribute, then you should use the X attribute class for that one. So this all are defined to system.xml.link namespace. So the same thing for document we use X document. For declaration we use X declaration. For comment we use X comment class, element X element class, and attribute X attribute class. So how do you query any XML document? So first load the document into memory, then dig into that where you want to select all the data. Like for example, here we see that we have students, and this student's structure contains a student inside it. The student start with ID 101 to 103, and we can say that this is the list of student. So to query the list of student, we should dig into till the students, like, right? So we can get the collection of students and we can query that one. So for that, how do we do is from student in X document dot load, and we give the location of our XML document. So from here we load our data source. So from is always connected directly to our data source. Then we get descendants of a student. So it is actually, you can assume that it is actually returning you a list of a student. Then we give our where clause. So this where clause is identifying your conditions, what on based on what conditions you want to get the result. Then we provide the order by and select. You can have multiple where clause, means where conditions here to filter out what is the expected result, and you select the student from there. So with select statement, at last you get your list of a student, and what you want to get here is student element name value. So it will give you name. I'll demo it at last. So this is how we query. This is the basic example how we query the XML document. Then moving to the next. So next is modifying XML document. So modifying means doing the CRUD operations on XML document, like add, update, or delete. So this can be anything: adding XML element, adding XML attribute, or comments. And this in same way we have update and delete for the same things like attribute, elements, or comments. So how do we add the new XML elements? So basically we have these methods: add first, add before self, add after self. So if we use just add first or add, we don't need to give any filtering. But if we use add before self or add after self, we need to first locate where we need to add the X element into the collection. With the help of that, we add it there, like we need to form our X element. We form and we add it. So as we can see in the example, we first dig into our XML document and we get the student whose ID is 103. With the help of add before self, we add the new student element whose ID is 106. I'll demo it later. So here we are using the first or default method. So it will give you, if we have multiple students with the ID 103, it will give you the first student element, and just after that it will add the another student whose ID will be 106. Then we'll go for the updating XML element. So here we have on the general basis we have two methods: set element value and set value. So again, whenever we are updating any XML element, we filter out the specific thing which we want to update. Then by using the set element value, we are updating its element. So our elements are total marks. As we see in our XML structure, we inside the student we have name, gender, total marks. So total marks also is an element there because it is inside angular brackets. So with the set element value, we set the value for the attribute total marks. Whatever the value was previously, we are going to set it to triple line with help of this query. Then for deleting XML element, we have one method as .remove method. So same thing applies here. How we query, how we do delete in the SQL. So there we give the where condition, which is specific thing we want to delete. In the same case here also, we first filter out which one we want to delete. So we do this with the help of where clause, in where we give the delegate, and with the help of that we get the specific student item whose ID is 106, and with the help of .remove method we delete that one. So .remove we use for that. Then these are the LINQ to XML structure. Like it is, there are so many things, and with help of this it is the path for the next thing. We can refer this one, and we can dig into what are the other methods we have in the LINQ to XML thing. So this is the just structure, and using this we can go ahead with the next thing. So I'll present the demo for LINQ to XML. So the first one is create XML document. So how do we create the XML document here is, we first declare what is the version of our XML document. then what is the UTF value, then if it is the standalone document or not, then with X comment we give the comment on the header, then we have element as a student. See here we can see that this is the constructor of X element and we are not closing it after this because these student values we want as a member of this students. And inside this student also, when we start the constructor, we are not closing it after just after the first comma, just before the first comma, because other attributes also we want as nested attribute in this one, like a student, a student's, a student. What is his name, gender, and total marks? In this way, we want to represent the XML document. So here I will create the XML document. So as we have created student, and these things are nested, name, gender, and total marks with like it is information about the student. Then second thing is how do we like query example, how to query the XML document. I'll first explain the function, then I will execute it. So here we want a student whose total marks are more than 800, and we want to have some other clauses also like order by descending, and select those student name only, name of those students. So here we got the 3 students whose marks more than 800, John, Rosie, and Palm. Then this is adding the XML element, adding the element to the XML document. So here we see that we have two things. Add element at last, and second one is add element at a specific index. So this add method will add the element at last, and a specific index will add where we want. We first query where we want to add, and we will add at a specific location. So first one will add it at the last. Like you can see after execution of this function, you will see the ID 105 at last and ID 106 before the ID 103, as we are filtering out and we are executing in the same way. So it will ask you to reload the XML document as it has updated. So the same thing we see here, 105 at last, and 103 is before, 106 is before 103, as we have done, as we have executed the same thing. Then next one is updating X element. So here we see that first we need to filter out what we want to actually update. This is the student whose ID is 106. We want to make total marks as 999. So with the help of set element value, we update the value of this attribute. So I'll execute and I'll show you. So here we see that ID 106 became 999 with help of updating X element. Then second, these two things I'll execute. This is for updating X element, X comment. So the same thing, like here I am filtering out the first comment. What is the first comment? Then I will update it to comment update it. So this is the same thing. Any CRUD operations, we can have the first filter out what you want to update, and then do your CRUD operation over that. So this comment got updated here. Then the last one is to delete the X element. So this is in the same way. First filter out what you want to delete, remove that element and save the XML document again. So you see we have deleted the element whose ID was 106. It is not there now. So these are the basic CRUD operations I have given demo. Next thing, Patil will take care.
Thank you, Vinod and Vasant. Nice demo. Now I will start with LINQ to entities. Basically, LINQ to entities is a subset of LINQ which allow us to write queries against the entity framework conceptual model. Here, entity framework queries are written against the classes, not against the database. Database is completely abstracted by entity framework. You can write the queries without knowing the persistence mechanism, but entity framework converts those queries into SQL queries. Here, linked entities, you can perform CRUD operations from the database using the LINQ to entity framework. And linked entities allow us to write queries in C# as well as VB.NET. And here we have linked entities supports two query syntax. One is here query syntax and one more is method syntax. First I will go to query syntax. Query syntax uses set of clauses like form clause, where clause and select clause. Here sample DB entity is to get the reference of the DB constructs, and where employee is the return type of query is called query variable. It stores the query rather than result of the query. Means return type of the query must be IEnumerable or IQueryable. And the LINQ queries must begin with form clause. This form clause must specify the data source. Here data source is DB employees, and E is the range variable. The range variable temporarily holds the value of from the data source. Now here .NET framework, what it will do, CLR does not support the understand the queries means .NET framework CLR does not understand the query syntax, hence they are translated into method syntax at the compile time. Okay, means whatever you are writing the queries in query syntax, that CLR translate into method syntax at compile time. What is the difference between whatever the query syntax is there, we are rewriting into method syntax. Here where employee is always it produces always a IEnumerable query, and here in where clause we are using lambda expression, and here we are not finding any form clause and select clause. That is the main difference. We can't find any clause here. Okay, now coming to the PLINQ. PLINQ was introduced in .NET 3.5 framework, and PLINQ queries just like sequential queries, LINQ queries, but operates on in-memory or enumerable data source and have deferred execution. As Vatan explained, deferred execution, which means you do not begin execution until the queries are enumerated. Yeah, this is the concept of here it will come. And here the PLINQ, PLINQ we can perform the operations for LINQ to object and LINQ to XML only. Now, the primary difference is that PLINQ partition the data source into segments and then execute the query in each segment parallelly on multiple processors. Here, customer array is example. Here we have a results and results two LINQ queries are there. In first query, it's a example of sequential query LINQ query execution. Means we are not using any PLINQ operators, but in result 2 we for the data source dot as parallel, that is the PLINQ operators that we are using. What it will do, it partition the data source into segments and then executes the query and for multiple processors, means query may be so fast. So parallel execution means that query runs significantly faster. Okay. Now coming to the limitations of PLINQ. PLINQ only works against the local collections, means you can you can do only LINQ to XML and LINQ to objects only you can do, but LINQ to SQL and edu.NET we can't do using PLINQ. And one more scenario is as I explained in here, result and result to are result is the execution of sequential LINQ execution, and result to is parallel execution. Means what it will do, that partition PLINQ data source into segments and then execute the query in a such segments on multiple processors. Means that time query result you may get the same, but what happen, order of the query may differ. Means in the result set order will be different. That is the concept of PLINQ. Yeah.